Jon, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. So for the listeners at home, will you tell us a little bit about your background, your motivation, and kind of where you are currently?
I got my undergraduate degree from the University of Rhode Island, and then went on and got a master's degree in athletic training from Indiana University. And right after I finished grad school, I took a high school job down in Tucson, Arizona, and I had summers off and I had a lot of time. So during that time off, I worked some independent league professional baseball and had a lot of fun, learned a lot. And then I moved up to Phoenix and had a great opportunity to jump into the Arizona Diamondbacks when I came up here. So did that for a couple of years, and then jumped out, had an opportunity in professional soccer that at the time seemed like a no-brainer and seemed like something I had to do. After a couple of years, things started to change structurally with that position. I was actually employed by a physical therapy group that had a contract with the team, and then that contract kind of fell apart. So kind of fell into limbo a little bit. I did stay on in mostly an administrative role with the physical therapy company. But then I was fortunate enough to get back into baseball in my current position with the Diamondbacks. My title is the Major League and Minor League Medical Administrator. But my office is in the rehab clinical setting where we do all of the organizational rehab. So I'm involved in a lot of the daily rehab activities, as well as a lot of the administrative stuff for the sports medicine and performance department. Okay,
awesome. And then will you touch a little bit on the connection of your role with strength and conditioning as well?
Sure. It's more than connected. I think it's one and the same. Our sports medicine and performance department, we are all under the same umbrella, and that includes strength training, or strength conditioning, athletic training or sports medicine, and also mental skills. So those three areas, I think, are all integral, and they're integrated, and we work seamlessly as one. For example, if a player has a player in rehab, they'll have a sheet with rehab exercises as well as a workout plan for the day, and that player might go back and forth between the athletic training room, the strength conditioning room, or the gym 4 or 5 times. We work as a team, and there's no disconnect at all. We all work under the same umbrella.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So you touched a little bit on kind of some of your path and everything. So what would you say your passion in life is, and why do you kind of do what you do?
My passions, I think I have a couple of different passions. Professionally, I really like to be in a team atmosphere. I like to be surrounded by a group of people with common goals and who help each other, challenge each other, hold each other accountable. And it's a fun environment. Sports medicine is fun. Baseball's always been a passion of mine, and whether I was playing or watching. So I think, those are probably the things I'm most passionate about: learning, being on a team, being surrounded by people that care about me, and that challenge me on a daily basis. Personally, I think it's a little different. My passion, my personal life is my family, my daughters, my wife, and kind of serving them and being the best dad and husband that I can be.
I love that. Okay, and then we touched a little bit on the training piece and the overlap or the connection of training and or strength and conditioning and athletic training and healthcare. So moving forward with that, right, pulling on that thread a little bit, what kind of does the rehab look like? So obviously you have rehab, right? But I'm assuming there's some assessments, there's some prehab type stuff that you guys do, and what does that kind of look like?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
What does the preventative measures kind of look like for you guys?
Preventative. Well, we do a lot of proactive care.
Okay.
For our pitchers and our catchers, we do regular scheduled arm care maintenance. Most of our lifting and strength and conditioning stuff is really geared more to prevent injuries. Baseball is a sport where durability is much more important than ability, and it's a long, grueling season, somewhere around 200 games in 225 days. So, and then with a really short off season, maybe 2 to 3 months of an off season. So pretty much our entire program for our players is based on durability, keeping them healthy, and preventing injury.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And then is there anything specific that you guys can share as far as like, do you guys measure, internal, external rotation of the shoulder or things like that? What does that kind of look like?
Sure. We do a lot of baseline measurements, and then we do checkup measurements. We do measure internal, external rotation of the shoulder as well as the hips. We do a full, we call it a PRI screen, and it comes from the Ron Bruska's Postural Restoration Institute. We do those screens and take those measurements and kind of watch those as well, and gear some of our corrective exercises towards improving or enhancing some of those PRI testing numbers that we see.
Okay. So on that same thread, what are some things that some college strength coaches could do better, whether it's an assessment or in the training piece, that could set guys up better for the pro ranks?
Well, I think, every environment is different. And I would say to college strength coaches, if you're not working side by side with the athletic training or sports medicine folks, I think that I would suggest trying, or at least starting to integrate a little bit, and because I think you're always stronger as a team. Two heads are better than one.
Yeah.
A village fighting for the same thing is stronger than one person fighting for something. And I think that I know that it is very possible for sports medicine and strength conditioning to work together. There's almost always a common goal, and that common goal is making that player the best player they can possibly be. And as long as you have that goal in mind, I think the two sides can work together. I know they can work together seamlessly. We do it here. And I know there's different sets of circumstances in every environment, and it can be hard. I think our gym is right next to our training room. They have doors in class that separate them only, and the glass is really only there for the noise. The gym likes loud music. We need a little more quieter on our side. So if it wasn't for that fact, we wouldn't have any walls between us, and so that's easy. We built the facility, so we set it up that way. I think sometimes the gym might be in a whole other building than the training room. So that I understand there's some issues and some difficulties with it, but my biggest advice would be to try to get on the same page. I mean, sometimes you speak two different languages, but it's easily translated.
Okay. And that's really good. And I really, really like that. And that's important, I think, because again, like you said, in college, there is a lot of disconnect, whether that's like geographically on campus, the weight room and athletic training room are typically separated. So I think that's really important to have that connection or that, that common point of, checking in. So I like that. And then moving forward a little bit, right? So obviously we don't want injuries to happen, but inevitably they do. And so, I mean, some more common ones are like labrums or maybe even thoracic outlet syndrome or Tommy John, something like that. So when those things do happen, what is the kind of the first measure? Obviously surgery is one of the measures, right? But what is kind of the first measure that you guys take as far as getting return to play protocols?
Well, each one of those would be a little bit different, but if it's a surgical case, then we typically start off. Let's say if it's a right shoulder. We'll start off with just symptomatic treatments and wound healing type of things, and maybe we'll try and address the central nervous system and try and tone them down. Kind of enhance the parasympathetic side of things to help enhance that healing side, and pretty quick, once they've kind of recovered a little bit after a day or two, we start to do opposite side lifts. We'll start to do some lifting, and with the left arm, if it's the unaffected side, we'll start to do some light conditioning or even a lower body lift pretty quick. As soon as they get the okay to sweat, we start to move right away. Our job is to get baseball players back on the field as soon as possible, and we don't want to waste a single minute. As soon as we get the okay from the surgeon that person can sweat, they start to sweat, and if we've got to protect an area of the body, we do that. We found that that there are some really good mental and psychological benefits from getting an athlete moving as quickly as possible, and when it's safe.
Yeah. No, that's a great approach, and that's awesome to hear. Right, and on that same token, you talked a little bit about PRI and the screening that you guys do. How else do you guys utilize PRI?
We use PRI on the rehab side, just as a simple corrective exercise, a rehabilitative exercise. But we also kind of sneak it in on the strength and conditioning side too.
Okay.
There are certain, PRI is a fairly complicated philosophical type of a thing, and but we can. There are certain things, certain movements that we can create in the gym that kind of players just look at it as a lift, but really it's activating certain muscle groups that is just going to give the player a better postural platform to work off of.
Okay. Would you give us just a couple examples if you have any handy?
Sure. Let's say there's an internal rotation deficit in the left hip. We may have that, that we pick up in a PRI testing. We may change that player's we may start that player with just some simple hip mobility stuff, some under and over the hurdles, or something like that. We may do some end range strengthening in that player's hip rotation, so that their brain can kind of start to feel more comfortable with more internal rotation if we want that or need that. Another example, maybe a little bit more simple, might be, if a player needs more right glute activation, well, maybe we program 2 sets of right glute RDLs, or right side RDLs, and only 1 set of left side. So we're kind of hitting that right side a little bit more, so that we can match up some of the weight programs to our PRI testing findings.
Awesome. And so does that kind of combine with functional range conditioning type stuff? That just kind of popped into my head when we were talking about the hip stuff.
Yeah, we do. Pails and Rails is some Andreas Spina stuff from his FRC stuff, and we do quite a bit of that. We've had a ton of success doing that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Okay, that's awesome to hear. I mean, you guys are doing some really, really cool things, and PRI is one of those things that, like you said, it's very complicated, but once you kind of grasp it, it can reap like some tremendous benefits.
Yeah, I think some of their weekend courses, PRI for fitness, PRI for baseball, you leave those courses with some really good, useful, practical information. Yeah. And I think if you don't, if you just stop there and use that stuff practically, it can be really effective. I think the more PRI courses you take, the better you're going to understand it, and the more you're going to be able to dial it in. But I also firmly believe that you can spend a weekend in PRI baseball or PRI fitness and come away with some great things for your athletes. Yeah,
no, I agree. Awesome. Okay, so moving forward, and that kind of fits right into the next question, right? So talking about like leadership and continuing education, right? What is your approach in managing kind of your staff or the people that you're in charge of?
We've got a philosophy here that we're all bought into. We identify our goals, our common goal, and a philosophy, and we've got a mission and a vision statement. And those things are really important to us, and we've got them up on our wall in the weight room and the training room, and we hold each other accountable to them. I would say that's the first thing. We also, a lot of our decisions, especially when it comes to personnel decisions, we work as a team. Let's just say, for example, we're considering bringing in an intern. The first step in that process is, we find this person's contact info, or they are recommended to us, and then we get a resume. We send them a survey that has a variety of questions on it, and then we usually have anywhere from 3 to 7 or 8 people call them and do kind of phone interviews with the survey results back, with their responses to the survey. And we just kind of get to know the person. Yeah. And then the people who talk to the person, they kind of compile some notes on their conversation, and then we share those notes. And we kind of sit down at the table and make a decision of whether or not it's someone that we think is going to fit for us at that time. So a lot of things that we do are team oriented. We do things together, and that's a kind of a process that our director of sports medicine and performance, Ken Crenshaw, has been evolving for a long time. He's been involved in professional baseball for over 30 years, and, and he's been around. He's surrounded himself with some really good people, and he's seen a lot of really good things, and maybe more importantly, he's seen a lot of things that don't work. And I think primarily he leads us in a direction to stay away from things that don't work.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, so moving forward with that, right? What does the kind of continuing education program look like from one of those maybe volunteer interns all the way up into like one of your assistants?
We place a premium on continuing education. Sports medicine and performance is an ever-evolving thing. There's no such thing as knowing everything. There's no such thing as well, I'm as good as I can be. So I've got these tools, and I'm just going to use these for my career. We have usually a couple times a week, wherever we are, whether it's 2 guys out an affiliate or anywhere from 4 to 10 clinicians that might be here in Scottsdale. We'll sit down and we'll do a formal hour of Con Ed, and it can be on whether it's a review thing or somebody went to a course, somebody's reading a book, whatever. Sometimes it's as simple as just anatomy. We'll just throw out 5 muscles. Let's make sure we know the attachments and the actions by Tuesday. And we'll just go over that. Sometimes it's that basic, but those are kind of the regular drilling that we do in season. Once we hit the off season, we really put the Con Ed into high gear. And we do a couple things. Typically, we'll send out individuals to try something new, whether it's a new class or a new symposium or some sort of a new product. Even sometimes we'll just go out and learn about a new product. And then we'll hear back from them. And then we'll also usually take a couple of weekends, fly everybody on the staff into Scottsdale, and do some sort of a course or a couple of courses on 2 or 3 consecutive 3-day weekends.
Oh wow! Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We also have, in terms of budget and money, each person in our department is allocated a certain amount of money every year for their own Con Ed, whatever they want to do. And then we also have a large group fund. And the total, I think we have about 24 clinicians in the department. That number arguably could be higher. Maybe it's 28. But we have well over $100,000.
Wow. Okay.
Set aside just for Con Ed for those people.
That's awesome.
For us.
Yeah.
So we invest heavily in that, and we feel like that investment is more than worth it.
Yeah.
And it took time to get that. That didn't happen overnight. Getting the organization to believe that money is well spent, and getting the organization to find a budget and put money in a budget so that we can try. Our goal, to be quite honest, is to be the best sports medicine performance team on the planet. And if we're going to live up to that goal, then we have to go out and continue learning every single day. I
agree. Yeah. And and if you're investing in your people, that's the best investment you can make, because they're the ones directly interacting with everyone else,
Absolutely.
So if an organization is not doing that, then I guess that can kind of tell you a little bit about, what they believe in. So that's fantastic to hear. Okay. So with that, right, what do you kind of look for when you're hiring different positions?
It's a good question. To be honest, it's a tough question to give a direct answer to. We're an ever evolving department, and we have ever evolving needs. That to answer it kind of softly is we look for the best teammate that we can find who's going to fulfill the needs that we have at the time. Okay. I've kind of, the way I answer this question has evolved over the years, and I used to kind of, if I was interviewing someone on the phone or in person, I would just kind of say exactly what we thought we were looking for. Maybe for example, we're looking for a hardworking person that we can trust, who wants to work all day long, who is interested in continuing education, and has a ton of positive energy. And that answer was direct and honest. And it was simple, but I learned over the years that by saying that, I almost cheated the person I was interviewing. And the reason for that was they would, once I gave them those adjectives or those descriptors, all their answers became, they tried to target and convince me that they were those things.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gotten away from being very direct when I answer questions like this, because one, I don't want to cheat that person. I want to get to know the person in an interview. You know, I don't want to the old give me 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses. You know, that classic question. I hope nobody's asking that question. In an interview, because it's scripted. You know, you can Google that, and you know, and I don't want to ask questions that people can Google. Because that, you know, give me 3 ways that prove you're hardworking. Come on, you know, that's easy. I can make that up anytime. And anybody can, you know. So my goal in an interview is really to get to know somebody, ask them some situational questions. You know, describe a time when you failed. Tell me about that failure and how did it change you, or how did you make up for that? You know, I kind of like that as an interview question, because then I'm going to learn a little bit about the person, and learn how they attacked that maybe that negative thing, or allowed themselves to fail, but you know, fell down and got up. I think to really get to know somebody is one of the primary things that we try to do when we're interviewing somebody or trying to get to know somebody. That's huge.
Okay. So moving forward with that, right? So say some professional development for kind of young coaches, right? So what general format tips would you have for like a resume and a cover letter? I know it differs depending on where they apply, but for you specifically, what are you kind of looking for on that?
No more than 1 page for a resume. You know, I often see seniors in college with a 4-page resume, and you know, for me, you know, a lot of times those resumes will include, you know, the titles of 1-page papers that they wrote, and well, that's great. You know, it's good that you did that, but for me, 1 page is plenty. You know, I've been in this business for over 20 years now, and I haven't redone my resume in a while, but when I do, it's going to be 1 page.
Wow.
It'll have my job history and you know, probably some certifications and think the major points. The biggest thing, honestly, one of my big pet peeves is a resume with way too much detail. Because I only want to know the nuts and bolts on a resume. You know, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call you. I'm going to call references, and I'm going to try to get to know you. I don't need it all on paper, because that's it's not real to me. So if I want more than 1 page of information, I'm going to call you and ask for it. In terms of a cover letter, I almost feel like cover letters are a little outdated. I know they're a big thing in the corporate world, but and it's a nice intro. But I think in a cover letter, a simple, hey, here's who I am, here's what I want. Do you have what I want? You know, and if those 3 questions are answered, good, done. Contact information, beautiful, love it. Maybe a little bit about your experiences and things, and then also a little bit about where you want to go. You know, but I think, again, nice and short. For me, the shorter the better. I think that's really important, because again, going back to the resume, right? Everyone has their titles or wherever they were, and then like 1,000 bullets under it, right? And it's like, for an intern, you don't necessarily need that. Like, you're not doing too much, you know. There's only a certain amount of things you do. So. Right. If you were the, you know, assistant strength conditioning coach at XYZ University, I get it. I know what's involved with that job. You don't have to say, you know, ordered supplements, cleaned the weight room, managed intern staff. Like, I get all that. That's, you know, I understand what the job is. So I think, you know, like you said, all those bullet points, I just feel like that's it's too much. Now, if there's something special that came with that job that is going to say, oh wow, you know, like perhaps something that might go there is translated for the Spanish-speaking athletes. That's something that's going to set you aside. You know, but clean the weight room on a daily basis? Nah, everybody does that. It's kind of a rite of passage. So yeah, exactly.
I like that. Okay, so on that same token, right, on resumes, so how at what point should internships be removed?
It's a tough question. I think if you did an internship that is going to benefit you or somehow set you up to get a position, then I think it should be on there. For me, 20 years in the business, I'm not going to have any internships out there.
Yeah.
My job history is long enough. If I were to change careers and, collegiately I had a little bit of some insurance background and I was going to go into a HR job or a benefits job or something, I might mention it, but personally probably not. But I would say, if the people you're sending your resume to, if they need to know about that internship, put it on there.
Okay. That's a good rule of thumb. And then moving forward to the references, right? I know a lot of people require a specific number, like 3 references. If that is not listed, how many references should be listed and who should those people be in terms of position?
The number of references is, I would say, is almost dependent on your level of experience. If you're coming right out of college, I think having, in my world, what I would love to see is probably having a professor or a clinic or a CI, somebody that knows you well. I would personally want to have a coach on there. If you're the whatever working strength conditioning, maybe you're working with the wrestling team. I'd love to talk to the wrestling coach and get that person's thoughts on you as a potential hire. 3 to 4, I think is plenty there. The other thing that I like personally are people who are going to be honest. If I call 3 references and all 3 of those people tell me the exact same thing of how great you are and how amazing you are and you're perfect and you're the right hire for me, it doesn't hold as much value as when those references, when they see you in different lights or give me different information about you. Well, they did great at this, but there was a situation when they were kind of bad at this. I want to have an honest conversation with people, and I think that's people who use references from jobs. It's a little more common to get honest feedback from their boss, as opposed to a college professor or a CI in college. Those people they're promoting you. And if I call a reference who's promoting someone, I don't know. It doesn't hold as much value to me as someone who's giving me an honest assessment.
That's important.
And I see it a lot with college professors or program directors, because those people, their jobs depend on their students getting jobs. So they don't, and I don't want to accuse anyone of being dishonest, because I don't think that's it, but they've got skin in the game. For their student to get a job means a lot to them, because those numbers matter. So I like to have somebody who's going to give me the real deal and be very honest and be able to tell me, no, you know what, they're not good at that. But the other things they were good at before they were here, they improved. They're an eager learner. They wanted to get better, but here's where they still need to improve. Those are the kinds of references that I like. Honesty. Honesty.
I was about to say, okay. Awesome. All right, then. So moving forward into a few questions kind of about you specifically, right? What are some resources that have had a big impact on you, whether it's like a book, a podcast, or a conversation with somebody?
I think, the people that have had first of all, people have had the biggest
that's a good answer.
Effect on me over time. I think, I look back to my undergraduate program director and my clinical instructor in undergrad, and then my program director in my graduate program. And I would lump, Ken Crenshaw, our director right now, in that group too. And the common thread between those folks is they care. And I think that's one of the primary things that you need. Is for me to influence me is I have to know you care about me, and I'm not a number, or I'm not somebody that's going to pass a test so your numbers look good and you get a raise next year. I mean, I think just that human side of things, those people have always had the biggest influence on me throughout my life. In terms of authors or books or things like that, I think John Wooden, his books are just awesome. They're so dense in good information and things that you can take right away from them. John Maxwell, John Gordon, those two guys have just got some phenomenal leadership books and kind of team-oriented books that I really like right now because they're both those two authors, Maxwell and Gordon, are pretty big influencers for the people in our department. I like their stuff a lot. Okay.
I see a little theme, huh? Would any of those authors have anything to do with your name being Jon as well?
Coincidentally, no.
Okay, fair enough. Just had to ask. No, those are some really heavy-hitting, authors and people. Like they just, like you said, they influence people, and the value that they put into things outside their realm is huge. So those people that cut across different professions, that's priceless.
Sure, I agree.
And then moving forward a little bit, right? So if you have any, what are some quotes that you live by?
I like John Wooden's "You're a product of your choices." I think that rings true to me. I think that each choice we make, if you sum all of your choices up, within a year, within 10 years, within 20 years, whatever, you're going to realize that where you are and who you are is a result of those choices. And of course, there are some things that just happen to you and you can't help. Yeah, I understand that, but it's how did you deal with that situation? What choice did you make when you were in that situation? How did that impact you and change you? Yeah. Another quote is actually from my late grandfather, and he was fond of telling me as a child, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing right. Yeah. And I kind of like that. It's for me, it simplified things a little bit. If it's not worth doing well, if it's not worth doing right, then it might not be worth doing. And you got to evaluate that a little bit. But and it also, to me, it always speaks to commitment and effort and loyalty where, hey, if you're going to do something and you've committed to doing it, then go do it the right way and do it as best you can. Yeah. I think I've used that throughout my life in different ways. Obviously, that's evolved from childhood stuff to now. But I like those two quotes a lot.
Those are good. Okay. Is there a thought or experience from your past that you've held on to that's made a big difference in your life now?
That's interesting. I don't know that there's one single thing that really sticks out to me as an experience or something. I think I try to stay pretty even keeled, and I've learned that through adulthood. I think earlier on there probably were, but I've kind of in my own head I've dialed everything back, and I've learned that I get to choose what value I place on experiences and things like that, things that happen to me. Yeah. And by choosing that value, it helps me stay a little more even keel. I think that every experience, everything that happens has value. Yeah. But I get to determine that value, and I think I can increase the value of things that are going to help me and help the people around me, and I can decrease the value of things that are going to lead to less productivity.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. What is the best advice that you've ever been given?
I might have to go back to my grandfather. If something's worth doing, do it right.
Do it right. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So in contrast to that, what's the worst advice you've ever been given?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know that nothing comes to mind right away.
Yeah. That question always gets people. It's a tough one.
It's a good question. I'd have to sort through it. Yeah. It's probably something that I didn't take.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So it stayed in the short-term memory and just kind of floated away.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. And then kind of last question here, right? What are some projects that you're currently working on? How can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey?
In terms of projects, right now, work-related projects. We just drafted a bunch of baseball players, and I've got a lot of things associated with that draft going on. Yeah. From helping get physicals and MRIs scheduled to and drug testing scheduled, things like that. I've got personal life, I'm kind of towards the tail end of a backyard renovation going.
Okay.
So a lot of times I get out of work and go do manual labor and try and get the backyard perfect for my wife and for my kids, for whatever they need.
There you go. Awesome. And then how can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey? I'm on social media. Okay.
But I think probably the easiest way is probably an email.
Okay.
Kind of old school a little bit, but my email is jherzner@dbacks.com.
Okay.
Would it be worth spelling that out?
Nah, I think hopefully everyone can get that one.
Yeah. I think I love hearing from people, with questions or being a resource for people. If anybody wanted to reach out to me, I think email is probably the best way to do it, and I would be more than happy to answer a question, to be a resource, to point somebody in a direction where they might be trying to go but are having difficulty. I'd love to be a resource for anybody listening.
Excellent. Well, Jon, thank you so much for your time. This has been really awesome. I appreciate you again taking your time out of your day, and hopefully we can connect again soon in the future.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'd love to do it again.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.